Hello, I'm Sarah Gonzalez, the Director of Communications for the National Grain and Feed Association. I'm here with Bobby Frederick, our Director of Legislative Affairs. He's going to give us a quick breakdown of what's happening in Congress this week. Bobby, there's been some action on waterways funding, which is very important to NGFA. Can you give us an update on what's going on there?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah. Waterways funding and waterways policy in general are very important to NGFA. In fact, we're very excited about these issues because they've had a lot of bipartisan success in the past, and in a short election season with the calendar being shortened, we think there's hope to do a lot this Congress on waterways funding as well. So the Senate had started to leap out of the gate when it came to waterways funding. They passed their Senate Energy and Water Bill through committee, and they attempted to take it to the floor last week. It includes record funding for operations and maintenance funding, which is very important to navigation and the overall care of our waterways. It also allows for the full use of the Inland Waterways Trust Fund and the revenues that are expected to come into it. So while unfortunately there were some procedural hurdles over an amendment buying heavy water or selling heavy water to Iran, we do expect that next week the Senate will take it back up and hopefully move it through the process. The House has a similar bill that they have not passed a budget yet. They're going to attempt that next week, but either way they can take appropriations bills to the floor after May 15th due to law that forces them to wait until that long if they have not passed a budget. But the House and Senate are teed up on energy and water appropriations, and that's something that NGFA will be pushing as we go on so that we can invest in our water infrastructure. We ship 25% of the grain in this country, and 73% of our ag exports are waterborne. So it just makes sense that we're going to be pushing to boost our water infrastructure.
And waterways funding is one of the issues that our committee apprentices touched on last week during their visits to the Hill that NGFA helped organize. Can you tell us what else they talked to our congressman about?
Absolutely. And the committee apprentice program, it was a time well spent with them last week, and for what for many of them was their first lobbying experience to Washington, D.C. They're up-and-comers in our industry and future leaders of our association. So we met with a number of congressional offices, and we appreciated their time. In addition to waterways, we also hit up on the issue of biotech labeling. It's still very much important to have a national standard as opposed to a patchwork of standards for multiple states. And that issue is more prevalent in the Senate right now, but we were just reminding our House friends that when it comes back over from there, hopefully, that they'll keep an open mind in spite of the fact that they passed their bill back in June of 2015. And lastly, we talked about the issue of trade. Obviously, trade is vitally important to the grain industry. And with TPP kind of hanging in the balance right now, we were informing members of our position on it and supporting how it would make our industry more competitive, reduce some barriers, and help open up some markets for agricultural exports, including grain.
Okay, thank you. And what should we be looking out for next?
I think it's going to be all appropriations all the time for the next few weeks. There's only a few short weeks between now and the political conventions later this summer, so I think you'll see the House and Senate tackle appropriations and line up spending battles for later in the year. And again, it starts with energy and water.
All right, thanks, Bobby.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for joining us.